Hello, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Tank. I'm your host, Tyler Rains, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Fortadal, and my other co-host today, Cameron Capobianco. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the show today. How you feeling? Cap, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, so welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me, and I just want to say right now, go Canada, go, because today is the day.
Wrong show for that. Wrong show for that. No, but
hey, listen, it doesn't matter what show you're on. It doesn't matter what show you're on. When Canada's about to qualify, it's all that matters.
It's an exciting
Italy,
time.
think about it. Canada's going to qualify, not Italy. That's kind of insane to think
That
about.
is sad in my world.
That's incredibly sad.
It's an incredible time for Canadian sports. Let's say that.
In a 50-50 for Cap.
50-50 for you. Absolute 50-50 for you. But we got a lot to talk about. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
That we definitely do. We're going to go over the games from this past week. You may notice that this is going up a little bit early, and that's because now we actually have a new recording time. So we are going to be recording it on Sunday nights, and it's going to be up right for you Monday morning. You can go and wake up to us talking aimlessly about the Steelheads, which is going to be fun.
I feel so bad for the kids. I feel so bad for the kids. Their parents drinking some coffee, and then they hear our annoying voices like, "Mom, who is that?" I don't know.
It's the two guys that talk Steelheads constantly,
and occasionally the third guy who feels like showing up.
Exactly.
So you may notice that that Alex doesn't have his camera today, so he's going through a little bit of technical difficulties, which is fine.
Oh, yeah.
Not to point the elephant in the room out, but
oh well, you already did. So thank you for that. Yeah. But
we're still gonna have a pretty good conversation regardless. So you know what? Let's look into Thursday's game against Peterborough. They needed that win really bad. Really bad.
And they got it.
Asking you shall receive.
You asked for a win. Exactly, Cap. You asked for a win from these guys. They don't disappoint a lot of the time.
Well, okay. Listen. In terms of that win, that wasn't the greatest win.
No,
it was a win, but they were losing to Peterborough.
It was a comeback win. It was a little bit sloppy, but it was a win. You know, you can't complain with a win, right?
The top six did virtually nothing except for Zach Laval getting an assist, but you know, the first line did nothing. The left wing and center of the second line didn't do any, you know, in terms of points, in terms of scoring, right? Which that's not great when you're facing just, you know, a low ranked team in Peterborough. Those guys have to be sharp, and they weren't sharp, except for Lavoie, because he did get an assist on that. So,
and also Xander Vecchia had a goal in an apple, I believe.
Yeah, Dylan Gordon got his first OHL goal. Shout out to Dylan Gordon.
I was gonna say, yeah, milestone alert. Dylan Gordon got his first OHL goal, which is always exciting. So I was pretty excited to see him get in on the action, especially you know, it was a pretty big win in Peterborough, as we know. But just to see guys who aren't necessarily like big point guys, like, you know, Michael Stubbs had 2 points, he had a goal and an assist.
Max Dodig
had 2 assists.
Yeah.
Like, to see those guys getting in on the play is something that, you know, you'll absolutely love to see.
It shows depth.
Exactly.
That's what it shows, right? It shows depth.
So for people who say that the Steelheads don't have a whole lot of depth, this is living proof.
It is living proof.
And
no matter the opponent.
Yeah, the three of us can say that. I mean, and Cap, I think you know, the last few games, I think you can speak for that as well. This team is incredibly deep.
Absolutely. No, you're not wrong there.
And it's like it's crazy to think that like just 3 weeks time, basically, that the regular season's going to end, playoffs are going to start. This is the time where they're going to start determining playoff matchups, because there are a lot of teams, and I think that Niagara hasn't been eliminated yet.
They haven't
been. Peterborough hasn't been eliminated yet, so they're going to play spoiler. And
Peterborough, yeah, exactly. Peterborough is within 3 points of the last playoff spot behind Sudbury. I'm surprised Niagara hasn't been mathematically eliminated yet, but
I thought they were already for some reason.
They're still walking, even though they're limber and old and tired. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because, I mean, as we come down, there's, not counting today's game against the North Bay Battalion, which we're going to cover on next week's show. There are 5 games left in the regular season, and only 2 out of the 5 games are at home. The other ones are in Ottawa, North Bay, and Oshawa, which, you know, it's great to see that we finally had a good rest of the season. Because at one point I remember everybody was just like, oh, we might not get a rest of the season. So I'm happy to see that everything's going according to plan.
Yeah.
So knock on wood. But everything,
the whole province is
everything
opening
seems
up,
to be,
right? So
First of all, I just want to say
it's a very decent time right now, So
First of all, I just want to say, before we go forward, Rain, shout out to you for knocking on your head as wood.
That's the whole thing that we
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that. Oh my goodness, that's
I
funny.
noticed that as he was coming out. He's like,
I didn't notice that. That's
wood.
really funny. Knock on wood.
Whenever
and Rain's like,
the story behind that, like whenever my mom used to say knock on wood, she'd always knock on her head, and I'm just like, wait, what? But your skull's not wooden.
What kind of wood is mahogany, oak? Like, what are we talking here?
That's why whenever somebody, even when I'm at the rink, whenever someone says knock on wood, I'm just like, oh yeah, knock on my head.
I just knock on my leg. Honestly, I don't even say that's saying much.
Bone is the closest thing to wood.
Bone, well, in your body, sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to get off track there, but yeah,
I started it.
You got 4 out of 8 teams. Oh, actually, you know what, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Peterborough is ahead of Sudbury by 3 points now. They must have got the win last night. I think they got the win last night.
Must have gotten the win last night. Yeah.
4 out of 8 teams in the Eastern Conference have clinched. 4 out of 8 teams in the Western Conference have clinched, which means that theoretically, Niagara and Saginaw have basically been eliminated from playoff contention.
It's basically unofficial. It's officially unofficial.
Yeah, like there's between 9th place and 10th place in the Eastern Conference. Sudbury's got 50 points. Niagara's got 42.
Difference of 8
points.
And realistically, it's, I believe, 11-point difference between the last playoff spot in Peterborough and Niagara. So unless they win every single game and Peterborough loses every single game, that's realistically probably the only way the Ice Dogs could get into the playoffs, which then they would probably be smoked.
Which probably Alex probably impossible in a way. Like people, I don't know if we
nothing's impossible because like Niagara throughout the year have shown signs of pure brilliance, but their team is so young, right? Like that's why they that's why they brought in an aggressive veteran, like Liam Van Loon, even though he's played like 6 games with them because he's been suspended for majority of the time or whatnot. Like next year though, like I think they'll be much better, because they had that experience. And the same will go for Mississauga's rookies, because especially throughout the second half, they've looked like inexperienced players.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they've got to pick that up. And I mean, we were talking to JR, the 3 of us, not that long ago, when I think it was the week before this, last Friday. He was talking about how this team needs to get back into their ways and play their system better. And they've ever since that night, they've done so much better they've looked more comfortable. They've done a lot better at playing their own game. This is the Steelheads team that we know and love.
They're starting to get back into it.
They're in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference right now, that's fine because they're only 1 point behind North Bay, which they're playing today.
For the division title, basically, right now.
Yeah, for the Central Division title.
It's that close.
Hamilton's in 1st with 87 points for the record.
No one's beating Hamilton.
North Bay's got 78. So nobody's beating Hamilton. It looks like they are going to finish off like the top team in the league, which no surprise. I mean,
no surprise.
It is what it is. But it's something that JR said the other day kind of hit like a different nerve with me, is that it's playoffs. And it just kicked in that, like, this so close to playoffs that like the last 6 games of the regular season, treat them like playoff games.
Oh, absolutely. And the last game we went to, of course, was when Kingston came to town. That was on Friday. That was after their Thursday game in Peterborough. That was a low scoring game where it was very evenly matched. And honestly, that's perfectly fine because, or at least it's fine with me because of the way they've been playing for the past 2 months. They were losing to teams like Kingston. And in some instances, they weren't close in shots. They weren't close in quality chances of scoring, right? Or in terms of overall consistency, right? But that Friday game against Kingston was contested. It was close. The shots were close. The quality of the scoring chances were there for both sides. It was a close game that had to go to overtime, right? Mississauga lost in overtime, but you know what? They still got a point from it, right? But those are the kinds of low scoring games that, funny enough, we interviewed JR right after that game, and he said that's the playoffs. They're low scoring games, and that was a prime example of what the playoffs will be like, right? And they face a team like Kingston. They're a really good team, right? The only difference between Mississauga and Kingston right now in the standings is literally 1 win, 2 points.
Yep, exactly.
So,
it's so close between the three teams. It's ridiculous. Like, you look at standings aside, these three teams, North Bay, Mississauga, and Kingston, have been battling for second place basically all year. And you look at the talent that's on each of the teams, you look at the way that they perform, it's going to be a dogfight. And that's exactly what you expect playoffs to be like, right? So these last 6 games, they're close. They're just like playoff games. And I would expect that at the end of the season, when it's all said and done, they're ready for the playoffs because they're preparing for that playoff mentality. And I think that's just the way that you have to do it. Going into the game against Kingston on Friday, Cap, that was your first time seeing Shane Wright. I wanted to get your thoughts on him first, just to...
Well, I think I was talking with Alex during the game. Yeah. We were sitting down at the game, and I was talking to you how I noticed how he's really like a two-way player, like how he gets defensively involved, but also he can be an offensive player. And we were saying too, his hands, his shot, his skating, everything was there. Was just what makes him the number one pick for this year's draft. And I saw why he so many people are saying he's going number one. He's going number one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, honestly, but he did have a goal in that game, which obviously, you love to see that.
As a hockey fan,
but
not just a Mississauga Steelhead fan, but as
exactly.
a hockey fan, cool
as a Steelhead fan, you hate to see it. Like,
you hate to see it, but as a hockey fan, to see the bitch at the first overall pick score.
It's exactly. Cool. It's not often that you get to see a first overall pick score, but you know what they did?
First overall, yeah.
This Steelheads team did an amazing job at shutting down Shane Wright for the most part. You barely saw him on the ice, and when he did,
that's true. Yeah, majority of the game. Yeah, they were shutting him down. When he did get playing
time, they cut him off, basically cut the head off the dragon, and said, we're not going to allow you room. And that's exactly what you have to do. When you've got a player like that who can create his own space out of nothing, you've got to choke the fire out and take that space away from him so he can't get creative. But that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing is, like it wasn't even just in Friday's game against Kingston. I think all season long they've been taming Shane Wright incredibly well. But in the case of Friday, as to why they lost, they have such good depth, Kingston. They have such good experienced depth, right? And that's sadly something I think Mississauga lacks, experience depth. Mississauga has depth, but, in terms of the quality of their experience, right? Because, Mike Stubbs has played multiple seasons in the OHL. Owen Beck hasn't, right? Xander Vecchia hasn't. Zach Lavoie hasn't, right? And Owen Beck was a player who I think he played a great game, but he hit the post so many times, right?
Speaking of, he was the player that had the lone goal for the Steelheads.
He is, and it was a very good goal. Great pass by Kai Schwint on that 2-on-1 play. That was a great goal.
If I'm not mistaken, we saw almost, I believe, a similar goal on the Kingston side.
It was almost identical to Beck's goal. Yeah,
almost identical. Shout out Roman Bazarin for what an amazing
played
game
a great game. Played a great game.
Like, that's one thing that I've always continued to say, Cap, to Alex this season, is that these goalies that we have, we are so lucky that we have a good goalie tandem because they've played their hearts out the entire season. And there's not one moment where I'm just like, oh man, I wish we had like Brett Brochu. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have,
or we had a different goal.
Yeah. These guys have just played their hearts out, and I couldn't ask any more of them. That's what they did. So, I mean, we're so incredibly lucky to have two amazing goalies who, night in and night out, stop the puck no matter what.
And I want to say this, the last time I saw a Steelers game, I forget who the goalies were at the time I went, but there was no Joe Ranger. No,
Joe Murdaka. Joe Murdaka was the last time.
Yeah, that's why I was. But I want to say this, I never seen Joe Ranger play live until I went to my first game. Like, I want to say, I forget how long ago it was.
It's going to be like 2 months ago now.
2 months ago, I went. I believe it was Sudbury the first game or Barrie. It was one of the two. We're first in town. And then I went to go watch that. And then before that, actually, the only thing I watched was when COVID was a thing, which hopefully
Still technically is, but you know,
Still technically is, but knock on wood doesn't come more
But
serious
knock
again.
on wood,
it's not
as
as
bad
serious
right
as
now.
it
was.
Yeah.
But the first time, like again, I was watching highlights on the Your TV Quinty YouTube of Joe Ranger playing in that Hasty Peace Cup with Trent in the OJHL, and I saw kind of what I've seen him play throughout the season, the same kind of style that he had playing now with Saga. So
yeah.
I
A
agree.
very big butterfly goalie. Yeah, like you know what? Because funny thing is, Bruin Basran, very tall guy. Like he fills up the net incredibly well. He's more of a hybrid, right? But when you see Joe Ranger play, he's not short, but he's not super tall as well, right?
He's like an average,
he's like an average like 6'6", like 5'11", 6", right? Which is perfectly fine. But he's a butterfly goalie, so he's able to move side to side, downward, vertical, up and down very well, right? So yeah.
It's incredible. Before we look ahead and continue talking about the Steelheads and how incredible their season's been, it's time for our favorite part of the episode. And you know what that is, Alex. You've been here long enough, Cap, and I'm pretty sure you know what it is too. So
one time.
I know that you, Alex, I know that you collect a lot of sports memorabilia, and Cap, I know that you have a lot of jerseys, and you have actually some signed photos in your room. You're not there right now. But what if I told you guys that there's one place that you can get it at an affordable price, and it's just amazing quality and great products?
I would fully believe you, because that is what CW Sports Memorabilia does for sports fans out there. Our good friend Charles Warburton, who some of you may know as the official photographer for the Mississauga Steelheads, runs an incredible sports memorabilia business called CW Sports Memorabilia. He, honestly, Tyler, like the amount of stuff that he has in stock is absolutely incredible. From signed jerseys to signed pucks to signed sticks to signed
photos, like signed
photos, signed mini helmets, like it's and the thing is he has more than just hockey. He has football, he has baseball, all his baseball stuff. I'm envious.
Anything that you can dream up, any sport that you can basically dream up, he's got it. He's got a little something for everybody. So if you're looking for great gift ideas for, your niece, your nephew, your son, daughter, anybody who, maybe your mom or dad, Father's Day is coming up in June. Mother's Day is coming up in May.
It's Easter.
Exactly. Easter.
Buy a jersey for the Easter bunny. Just say, hey, what's your size?
Don't be a Leaf fan.
If you're looking for some great gift ideas, CW Sports Memorabilia is the #1 spot to go and get anything that you need, from signed pucks to autographed artwork, anything from framed jerseys and everything in between. It is an amazing place to go and get it. Super affordable. And Alex, I think that you and I can both vouch for this. If you want to get your jerseys framed, like I have this this beautiful Mississauga Steelheads jersey. You can't see it. It's on the other side of the wall now. That is autographed. If you want to go and get your jerseys framed, he can do it at such an affordable price, and it's just the highest quality everything that you can find.
No, honestly, and the funny thing is, compared to other brands, across Ontario or in the Greater Toronto area, other stores that may do framing, it's not even close in terms of the quality and the price that CW Sports Memorabilia offers. He does incredible stuff. Absolutely.
And you know what? The best part is, gentlemen, if you message Charles with code PROSHOT, then you will get 10% off your first order. Yes, you did hear us correctly. That is 10% off your first order with CW Sports Memorabilia. So definitely go and check them out. We are going to link their social medias down in the description, and you can go and check them out. But until then, thank you very much, CW Sports Memorabilia, for sponsoring this episode. Gents, let's move on to our next segment, which is the look ahead. We have the game against North Bay today, and then we have a couple more games coming up this week.
I just want to say this right now. There's another #1 or another top prospect, I guess, going into, I believe, this year's draft or next year's draft, I believe, in Ty Nelson is coming to town.
He's this year. He's 2022. Yes. 2022. He's a certified first round pick. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Listen, this game today, because of course we're recording this before the game on Sunday. This is an incredibly important game. This not only has playoff conditions with it in terms of the result, but it has
the Central Division title is on the line.
It's basically on the line right here. Of course, North Bay is up 1 point against Mississauga. A win would move Mississauga up to first in the Central Division. Of course, this win wouldn't certify them. It wouldn't confirm them to be the division champions, but it's one step closer, giving them the lead, and then they have to work hard and separate themselves from North Bay, who I'm actually genuinely curious as to who North Bay plays next. I'll take a look at that maybe later after
it's incredible to think about, because I mean, this was a team that, in the 1920 season, dead last.
They were pretty bad
in the league. They were
in terms of the first half.
So bad.
Yeah.
And now they're second in the third in the league right now.
Third in the league. Compare, in a season's time, right? Losing a guy like Thomas Harley. Love that guy, who is one of the best defensemen in the OHL in 1920, probably the best skating defenseman in 1920.
Yep.
And now look at it, right?
Both teams are drastically different, I would say, but I mean, I still think that they've done some pretty solid battles this season, back and forth.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's, today's going to be no difference. We're going to be watching the game from home. So we will be watching. Big Brother's always watching. We're going to be watching the game from home, so it's going to be a pretty interesting one, I think. If the Steelheads can shut down Brandon Coe, Ty Nelson, Dallin Wakely, and get in Verbetich's head early, I think it's going to be a win for them. But, you can never count on them to just dominate North Bay, because you never know what's going to happen. North Bay, some games they come out flying. Like, you look at that first game of the season, I think it was against, not the first game of the season, early in the season, the first time they faced North Bay, got absolutely dominated. And that's something I had to watch out for, right? But you look at the games that were previously, the matchup has been more even in terms of how they played, in terms of how, the Steelheads bounced back from being down 3-1 or things like that. Like, it's just a lot more evenly matched, I think.
And North Bay has a very fair amount of reliance on Joe Verbetich, right? Montreal drafted player. He was drafted for a reason. He wasn't drafted only for his size. He's 6'6". Like, he's a goalie of tremendous stature, right?
He's incredible. I mean, and
he's
that's
a very
the thing,
good
right?
goalie. Mm-hmm.
So I think Joe Ranger's getting the start today.
I would think so, unless they're going to play Roman passing 3 times in a row, which they have done in the past, but due to some backlash by fans and also myself in terms of criticizing, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would think Joe Ranger would get the start today. I would think he would, yes.
I think it doesn't matter who you play. You're going to have 2 solid goalies in the net. So
that's true, but then again,
I don't expect this to be a super high scoring game, but it's going to be very I think it's going to be very tense in terms of clogging up the neutral zone, getting those scoring chances. It's going to be a low scoring game. I think, don't take my word for it, but only because the goaltenders are both very solid. But if you can find a way to get in Verbetich's head early, then there might be a different story.
I agree. I think realistically, the only way Mississauga can come out with a victory against North Bay is if they strike first, right? If they crack the wall of Joe Verbetich, because if he plays a shutout first period, he's gonna sustain that, right?
Cobra Kai, strike hard, strike first, no mercy.
Cobra Kai, exactly, right? It's all about being able to strike first on him, and they have the firepower to do so. But listen, and the funny thing is, for the whole second half, really, whenever they have a power play or whenever they are, or whenever they're on a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1, right? Their shot selection has to be careful here, because they are shooting the puck, and their enemy, and their opponent players are always blocking shots. They're blocking so many shots. It's absolutely insane. And, I don't want to say that it's just on their opponents blocking shots. I feel like the Steelheads could be taking a tiny bit better into, they could be doing a tiny bit better in terms of their shot selection, reaction time, or whatnot. Just, but of course, those are small instinctive things, right? Just making sure they're staying sharp. Their reflexes are good. Their hockey IQ and their overall timing on things is sharp, right? Because these are critical games, and North Bay is a team that blocks a lot of shots. Big bodies, experienced, full of veterans. They're going to block some shots, so they got to be careful here about their shooting.
No, I agree. And I think it's shooting. I think recently, you look at the quality of the scoring chances, it's been good, but it's like you said,
They're not finishing.
Players on a team like North Bay, where their defensemen have been known to block shots constantly from every team around the league, you've got to be careful with the types of shots that you're getting. Just make sure that they're hard on goal and that they're not getting in the way. You know what I mean? So that's, there's only so much you can do if you're the Steelheads, but I think that if they get in Verbetich's head early, then you've got a good shot at winning the game. And you know what? They've been playing pretty solid. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the episode about how crazy they've been playing, right? Out of their minds since the big team meeting. And it's been a lot better. So I think that the more that they get those shots on goal, the more that they play their hearts out like they have been recently, the better it's going to be. So, we're running out of time because I just got the timer notification thing, Zoom. But gentlemen, I want to go over the keys to the game. We're going to go one each. Cap, we'll start off with you, and then we'll go to Alex, then we'll go to me. So what do you think key to victory is going to be for this week?
Well, I think like you guys said, obviously the key to victory is well, for me, I was like what we heard with Leafs Reigns, as we're diehard Leaf fans, and every time in the playoffs, we always hear we got to start on time. And I think that's what happens with the Steelers. Start on time and get in the offensive zone, probably get shots on fast, because the more shots you get, one's going to trickle on through before more come flying out of the gates in a way. So I'd say start on time and get shots going early.
Yep, that's definitely a big pivotal point. Starting on time is the way to go, because I mean there have been times this season where they haven't been able to strike first. They looked a little bit sluggish, but recently they've really picked that up. So Alex, we're going to go to you for what you think they should do, not just for this game, but coming up this week.
Well, first off, I absolutely concur with what Cap said. I think it's just being able to take the quality chances that they have been having, especially in their last two games, right? I think the quality of their scoring chances have been good, but they have to finish them, right? They have to finish them, right? If they want to win this game against Joe Verbetic and the North Bay Battalion, score first. I think that will set the tone for it, right? If the team's not doing great, get some energy up, right? And the funny thing is, we saw Mike Stubbs willingly, easily just drop the gloves with a Kingston player, had an incredible fight, and you saw the bench. We were sitting right near the bench. They were popping off, right? And then for the rest of the game, it was heavily contested. So much so it went to overtime. It's just all about being able to stay consistent in terms of energy and in quality of chances. And the thing is, like, the quality of chances, I'm not worried about them not creating good scoring chances. They've been doing that recently, but finishing them, that, that's, to me, that's been a long run issue for them this season. Yeah. And again, I think that goes into their inexperience, as a core overall. But of course, with time, that's only going to get better. Next year, I can't wait to see what they do next year after drafting, this incredible draft class in the OHL draft. So
as excited as we are for next year, you got to focus one game at a time,
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
And I think that my major key to victory is just, win one period at a time. It's like my dad always says, every time that I'm talking on the phone with him and we're talking about the Leafs, he's like, they need to win the game one period at a time. So go into it. Don't think about the second. Don't think about the third. If you're going into the first period, think about the first and how you're going to dominate in the first period. So it's kind of like Cap said, start on time, but also think about winning it one period at a time. So that's what's going to get them to win, not just today's game against North Bay, but this week. And I think they've done a great job so far at, they set a franchise record in wins against Peterborough on Thursday with 35 wins. And I think, they keep going. It's going to be second place for them in the Eastern Conference, and it may be a Central Division title once again. So I think that's going to be something to look forward to. For those of you who haven't already done so, definitely go and check out some games, because coming up, it's playoff time. It's going to be really exciting. Everybody's going to want to go out to Steelheads games, especially because, the final games of the regular season are going to be wrapping up. Playoff matchups are going to be determined, and you're definitely going to want to go and see these guys, if not before the playoffs, during the playoffs. So definitely make the time to go. Gentlemen, it has been a great episode. Cap, thanks as always for jumping on with us, Alex. It was great to talk to you once again. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification for all future content, and follow our social medias down below. As always, this has been your host, Tyler Rains, along with Cameron Capobianco and Alex Fortadall. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.